Good morning. This is part 24 of having all the answers to everything if only somebody would listen, also known as finally replying to old comments from this channel. They're getting their day in the sun. But I'm also replying to comments from the previous installment in this series. So there was one comment from part 23 last time from Mega Tinny who said, "Some people don't have a bullshit detector. They will look at a guy like CW or Peterson and believe them, just like CW seemingly didn't have one when Tammy and colleague were playing their tricks on him." Interesting point about AI and whether it will be better at detecting bullshit than humans. There are some interesting studies on deception and detection in 911 calls based on statistical patterns obtained from confirmed guilty, non-guilty cases. One specific thing I recall is when more numbers were used by the caller, they were more likely to be truthful. There is potential and great danger at the same time. Yeah, before I read the last line there, that does make sense. Even if that is from AI, I don't think AI itself is the problem. It's kind of like weapons. It's the latest weapon. Pe- Evil people, well, evil is too simple of a word. Corrupt, underdeveloped, intellectually inferior people will use the latest technology as a weapon. So smart people, useful people who actually elevate the entire species rather than bringing us closer to the edge of ending it, those people will use the latest technology as a tool to bring us up even higher, to make our situation as a species better, put us in a more of a comfort zone so we have more time to advance further, possibly onto other worlds. So it's not the AI itself that's the problem, it's the people who will get their hands on it, because some of those corrupt, mentally underdeveloped people in power are the ones propagating it to everybody. Everyone's going to get it. And that's about the way I see it. It's going to be equal to maybe not with you Google something and AI gives you the answer. That's not the weaponizing that I'm afraid of. It's when it gets to the point of nuclear bomb detection, nuclear bomb level. When people like you're basically going to have everyone is going to be given the blueprints to build a nuclear bomb with the way AI is going to develop. And 99 out of 100 people will just use it for the nuclear power. But you're going to have one out of every person in society being a psychopath who shouldn't have those blueprints, and they will because of the newest technology. That's what I fear about it. So yes, this detail you mentioned here about how it detects that more numbers being used does ring true, because someone who's trying to get to the bottom of something and find the truth of the matter is more likely to be specific and add relevant details. That they want to give everything they can to try to help everyone in the collective find the answer so that justice can be served. Whereas, you know, the untruthful people they will say a lot of things, but none of them will have any substance and they'll be vague. So we saw like CW rambling for hours and hours, and everyone's just going, what is he talking about? Because he was being vague and being non-specific and trying to jingle the keys over here. What's going on over there? Look at all that. Look, yeah, I was at NASCAR College, NASCAR Tech. Yeah, I never had a girlfriend until I was 25. And so that way you're not looking at his evidence. So yeah, AI can be a great tool for smart people, but unfortunately, being distributed to everybody, it's also going to be a devastating weapon for the morons in our species. Wrapping up, Megatini said, P.S. Are you running some kind of experiment on us these last 3 episodes? I've been racking my brain trying to come up with what you think the experiment is, or even just a funny answer. And other than the only difference about these last 3 episodes, I could say all sorts of things about the experiment of this entire series, seeing how long people will put up with it, seeing how many parts in this series it's going to take before we get down to 0 views. A third one, so there's 3, because you always have to have 3. But I can't wait to hear what you think that experiment is, other than just these last 3 videos have been the longest, because I found ways finally to clear up some space on the phone that I'm recording it on. But it's all an experiment. It's all, let me put this stuff out there, hoping that it elevates our entire species. Did I just put myself in the smart category? I guess I did. Well, I guess you just saw my ego. Or is it going to just push everybody away and be swept under the rug and be buried under the regolith with most everything else that's created by artistic people? Did I just call myself an artist even though I'm just making videos on YouTube? I guess I did. Wow. Megatini, I guess you have your own experiment there. You just exposed me as an egotistical, self-professed artist. Well done. So let me know what you think that experiment must be from the last 3 videos. So moving on to the comment section where we left off, which was his master plan revealed, part 10. We had just left off 3 from Sonia Marie Alves de Mello. And then the next comment was from Cheryl Johnson, who said, God, my ex is a narcissist, all about supply. 3 years ago, yeah. That word kind of went away, narcissist. Remember, it was all the hype? It kind of started around the same time that the CW case was getting all that attention. Everyone was using narcissist, psychopath, sociopath. Now they've all kind of, those buzzwords have gone away. But I'm glad that you mentioned it's your ex being a narcissist and not the person you're currently with, that you got away. And usually, I know it happened with me, when you figure out that you're with a narcissist, it makes you much better at avoiding one next time. Next up, Jules STL 4254 said, I came across on my home screen of YouTube your latest video. I was looking for something to binge watch today and chill. So I went to your channel and subscribed. Thank you. I wanted to start with video 1. I know those interrogation videos by heart. I loved your insight into what CW was thinking. Great job. Thank you. Now I want to watch the Graham and Tammy show and use your knowledge of the insight of CW. I think you mean watch it again, all the raw footage again, and then come back to my insight, which is something I did with all the channels I mentioned. I kind of rotated back and forth. It's nice hearing what other competent people say about a thing, and then you watch it with, like, as if you're watching it through their eyes, and then you can cross-reference it with your own opinions about it. And then the combined opinions, that recipe makes a better meal. Anyway, I live 5 miles from the Chris Coleman murders. He is in prison with CW. He killed his wife and his beautiful sons. It was heartbreaking, same scenario, but no oil tanks. Thanks. Yeah, it's, I wonder if Watts heard about Coleman and that, like, gave him some ideas or motivated him. Like, I'm not going to make that guy's mistake. He left so much blood. So it is important, as depressing as this stuff is, to make ourselves aware of it and share our ideas about it, because the psychopaths certainly are doing the same thing. So we have to be on guard for the red flags that they're about to try it. Thanks for the comment. Thanks for joining. I wonder if you're still with me, Jules. Next up, 38 Maddie said, great vids and angles you take. Coming up where he talks to his dad and you can barely hear it. Oh, you know, after the first time I had to just skip that part because it's so disgusting hearing them conspire together, both completely cold about the innocent lives that were murdered. They're just talking about it in a completely factual way. So what happened? What'd you do? Well, I came up downstairs and they were gone. Like, it's disgusting how Chris is telling his dad the story of how he murdered Shanann. And it's the really completely unbelievable version of it, where he saw her murdering the kids and then he murdered her. And he's not even trying to make it believable. Well, he's trying in his mind, but to a non-involved observer, it looks completely ridiculous the way he's attempting. It's like an actor who would be turned down for the role, performing the role of somebody who caught his wife murdering their kids and then murdered her. It's completely unbelievable, and you're waiting for the scrutiny that you would get from, say, Graham or Tammy, or millions of people online. And what you just get is Chris's dad immediately believing him and calmly stating what they should do next about it. The most we get is, as far as like a human being responding to what Chris is saying, is "Good God Almighty, son." And I even think that is, "You really made my life harder, son. This is going to be a nightmare for me and your mother, son." That's what I get from it, not how could you possibly lower yourself to that base of an activity. I thought you were above this, son. I don't get any of that from it. I get, "You really made our lives complicated, son." All right. So anyway, I think the point of me saying all that was responding to this where you can barely hear it. I'm glad you can barely hear it, and actually you can hear too much, because after the first time I heard it, I just fast forwarded it every time I listened to that interrogation afterwards. I just get to, oh, this is where the dad comes in, zip right ahead to where I see Graham sitting in the chair again and Tammy rubbing Chris's back. That's the good part. But anyway, continuing on with 38 Maddie's comment, there's the transcript out there that shows exactly what is said, and it's fascinating how the dad feeds him his lines and strategy going forward, and also how the dad is not surprised at all, like he already knew Chris had an affair. Yeah, that might have been shocking at first, but it makes perfect sense when you see what kind of thing Chris Watts turned into, that his dad would be that way. So I think I even joked about that in the video, about how his dad has probably just been covering for him like this their whole lives. Maybe not for anything this serious before, but the same kind of, "Let's just sweep it under the rug, son, and see what we can do." Okay, moving on. Rick B2432 said, wait, let's not forget about Rain Man. Oh, you got me. You got me. Let's not forget about Rain Man telling his teacher that he went to China on summer break. I did bring that up at some point. Maybe it was in a later video. Oh, yeah, I did in part 9, about how he actually chose to believe that his teacher believed him, when my opinion was that his teacher didn't even care in the slightest whether he really went to China or not. The teacher was just saying, probably, I'm assuming that the teacher is a regular, reasonable adult who looked at the second grader saying they went to China and said, "Oh, that's nice of you, little boy. You went to China. Oh, what a wonderful experience you must have had going to China, little guy." And here is Chris, all these years later, is still that second grader. "I told my teacher I went to China and she believed me. I was really convincing." He's still that. I would say he's not even second grader level in some ways. Maybe in memory and pattern recognition, he developed to above average, but in human intelligence, he's still younger than his daughters, Bella and Celeste, who are 3 and 4, if he forgot. But anyway, getting on with this comment. Yet Crazy Cindy says that Rain Man was the perfect kid. He didn't even rebel. Then there's the mechanic thing. I don't think Rain Man was an actual mechanic so much as he was a parts swapper. I suspect that's why he wasn't knocking down $2 wrenching in a dealership. Most techs in a dealership work 48 hours a week. I'd expect him to turn at least 65 hours. I'd expect him to turn at least 65 hours in 48. That would barely make him an average tech. Well, I've never been a mechanic or tech, so you're talking above my head. I'm not sure what you mean there. but maybe the listeners do. Oh, you explain it here. An average tech in a dealership is going to turn 1.5 hours for every clock hour he's in the shop. He's just never achieved anything close to what he and his parents billed him as. He couldn't cover it up forever. Well, I agree with that last line. I'm not sure what you meant, why you were putting the relation, like, where did you hear evidence that says he wasn't? He could have been doing 2 hours for every hour, and he just didn't want to be a mechanic anymore. I don't get what the relationship is there. I mean, you had me going. I was interested in how are you going to tie the whole thing all together, but I'm kind of confused now. So if you're still listening, could you come back and elaborate on that? Like, where did you hear that he wasn't be able to do the standard amount of mechanic work in a shop? I didn't hear that anywhere. It wouldn't surprise me if it was all a lie. I mean, everything else is like what you said, everything else you said, except for that detail about the 1.5 hours for every hour. I've never heard that related to Chris in any way where he compared on that scale. But everything else about him and the way the family portrayed themselves has been dishonest and making them seem more than they really are. So that wouldn't surprise me. I just haven't heard that. But thanks for the comment. And elaborate if you're still there. DMBB3WL said, I'd love to see videos like this on his mistress. I think she is hiding the other half of the truth. Yeah, and we've covered that many, many times already. Oh, speaking of which, and to reiterate, everything I have to say about the mistress has been said in the videos about Chris and his victims. So that would just be, it would be kind of like covering the Unabomber was, just torture. The satisfaction of doing it did not equal the torture of having to go through and analyze it, because she is insufferable. But anyway, Roseanne Haywood said, Michael, I enjoy watching your videos on Chris Watts. You have to know there is so much more to this story. Roseanne Haywood, I'm not a fan of the teaser there. You're basically reiterating what DMBB just said, along with many, many other viewers in the camp of, I know the mistress is involved with all my heart, even though there's no evidence. There's only vague evidence that could possibly be connected the dots to, in the same way that you make constellations with the stars. You're not really looking at Orion the warrior, you're looking at a bunch of stars. That's kind of what people do with the mistress. But I'm not a fan of you just saying there's more to it, and at least the other people who say the mistress was involved go into a little bit of details. I'm not a fan of you just saying that and offering no details to support your story. And anyway, how do you know I'm not going to get to that later? You're 10 videos in. I did 5 more videos after this in the His Master Plan Revealed series, plus another 12 videos in A Loving Family Man, I Think series covering the prison interview. So how did you know I wasn't going to eventually get into it? You have to know there's more to the story, like I didn't know already. So I don't even know what you're talking about. What's the more to the story? I'm assuming it's about the mistress because that's what everyone else says. There's more to the story. Is there also some kind of corporate cover-up where Chris and the mistress were just the puppets being played by the corporations? The thing where that all falls apart is the tens of hours of footage that convincingly convey that Chris Watts is guilty of committing the crime. It's in what he says, the way he says it, the way it lines up with everything that was found around him, that he said where the bodies were. He was in the places where he said he was, where the bodies ended up being. Everything lines up. So he's still the guilty party. So what more to the story is there? I mean, if there legitimately is more to the story and you're afraid for your safety of revealing it because then you might be the next one on the Shadow Powers' list to be taken out, I understand. Don't put it on some nobody's YouTube channel and protect yourself. But I, for one, have no personal stake in this. So I'm not going to look any further because if there is more to the story, Chris should be talking about it. He should be telling it because he's the one who knows more than anybody else right now because he actually committed the crimes physically. But thanks for the comment. Perhaps your vague stamp there will lead to others finding out that there's more to the story. Next, there was a comment from Marion9148, but there are 4 replies, including one from me already, so I'll just go over to the next one. Jojo Davidson 52 said, "You have certainly got this guy's ticket. A brilliant use of parody. Always waiting for your next appraisal of CW's ridiculous attempts to con everyone. A total and pathetic loser." I hear you, Michael. You're good. Well, that's very nice of you, Jojo Davidson. I can't really reply to that. I guess I'll have to put that in the same category with the next comment from Deb Richardson, who said, "This is the best Chris Watts talk." I put both of those types of comments into the category of like ego boosting type of comment that I've always wanted to hear and will stay with me forever, which is why I got into a field where I want to communicate ideas through whatever medium. It's mostly been trying to be literature. For the past several years, it's been YouTube videos, but regardless of the medium through which I'm conveying the ideas to try to elevate our entire species, that is the kind of response I'm hoping for, is that people think this is the best version of what it is. So I know that's not very entertaining to listen to, but I'm replying to old comments, and maybe that's why I did not actually reply in the comment section. But I'm glad you left the comment, so thank you both. And also another thank you to Megatinny, who just said hi. Just adding to the algorithm. Appreciate that, Megatinny. Simple, but I think it works. Well, it's supposed to work. Who knows what YouTube actually does and why channels never get off the ground. Next up, how much time do I have? Okay. M. Lamana said, "God, it does not get old. Absolutely love the Chris Watts impression." Well, M. Lamana, not everyone loved it, so I do thank you for chiming in on that. It wasn't popular with every group of people. Some people thought it was insensitive. Excuse me. And were not entertained. So, but I think, and what a channel like True Crime Loser showed, is that it's okay to make light of the case if you are insulting the criminal, because that's in defense of the victims. To actually act out and say and show how lowly and moronic the criminals are to complete these completely unnecessary crimes for totally selfish reasons, they deserve to be ridiculed. It's dumb. And it's disgusting that anyone tries to put these morons up on some kind of pedestal like they're above the average person when they're actually below. So I'm glad there was some people out there. I'm glad there were some people out there editing no editing in this video, who enjoyed the Chris Watts impression for what it was, insulting somebody who deserves to be insulted, hopefully dissuading people in the future from stepping over that same line into the stupid territory of actually committing a completely unnecessary crime for totally selfish reasons. Up next, Lee McGrish said, "I think NK manipulated Chris to dump his family for her." Absolutely. For all my stance of I don't think she has any direct involvement in the crime, as in she didn't get her hands dirty at all, she didn't lift one finger to help, I do think she is the type of person who manipulated Chris to dump his family just so she can, that's how she got her supply. And I would even go further than that to say she strikes me as the type of person, based on what's been shown about her publicly, based on her testimonies in public, her interviews, the way she talks about Chris and the crime that was committed, based on all that, I also suspect she had it in her mind that what if he kills his family? Oh my God, can I get him to be the next family annihilator? However, where I draw the line is I don't think she ever would have said something like that out loud in a serious way, just using the double speak, like where it's implied. Kind of the same way, which is nothing special, as I've said again and again. It's like that was done as a side plot in Wayne's World 2 in 1993, where Wayne finally got, or no, Garth got a girlfriend. I love Wayne's World, but Garth got a girlfriend and found out she admitted that she was married, and she does the same thing where she never tells Garth to kill her husband, but she implies and tries to physically manipulate him into killing her husband. And of course, Garth is smart, unlike Chris Watts. And Garth said, even though they kind of talk the same, Garth in Wayne's World 2 said, "No way." And Chris Watts in 2018 said, "Okay," to the same manipulation. It's not funny because, the victims, but it's funny to make fun of the stupidity of the person who actually steps over the line into committing a completely unnecessary crime for totally selfish gain. That's the funny part. But as I was saying, it's nothing new and it's not special. It was a subplot in a silly B comedy in 1993. So yeah, I think the mistress would go that far as how can I get him to kill his family? Okay, I think I'm going to have to call it there. We're getting kind of long here, so that's it for part 24, and maybe I'll see you in part 25.